All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start our meeting for today. So we say good afternoon to all our committee members, commissioners, and also those in the public areas of this meeting, and those following us further by various media. This meeting of the Central Committee is called to order. Today, Thursday, 29th of June, in accordance with Article 8 of the Rules of Order of the Island Council Committee Ordinance. We move to agenda point number 2, which is announcements. Are there any announcements from the committee members? If not, then we proceed with agenda point number 3, setting of the agenda. The published agenda reads as follows: 1, opening; 2, announcements; 3, setting of the agenda; ratification, list of incoming documents; ratification list of decisions and commitments of May 28. Number 6 is a quarterly implementation report 2026 and the CFT reaction and advice. Number 7, annual accounts 2025. Number 8, announcement, executive council. Number 9, closing. Okay, there's a proposal to remove agenda point number 7, which is the annual account 2025, since that document, I think, has not been received by the council or received just today. And there's a mandatory publication period of 2 weeks, so we will have to discuss this in a future meeting. So agenda point number 7 we will remove. Are there any other proposals from Commissioner Merkman?
Make one remark pertaining to what you said, that it has not been published. It has been published. The document has been published.
That's been published when?
The other evening.
When was it published?
It was published. It was published 158 by GIS.
What?
158 by GIS.
158 today?
Yeah.
But there should be a 2-week period for the public.
No, the 2-week relates to the Eilandsraad, niet de Centrale Commissie.
Anyway, in any case, I think the members did not, at least maybe receive it today. Some did not receive it. I did not receive it yet. And so it makes no point trying to discuss it today. Okay, thank you. Any other proposals from the committee members with respect to the agenda? No. Okay, then the agenda will now read as follows: 1, opening; 2, announcement; 3, setting of the agenda; 4, ratification list, incoming documents; 5, ratification list of decisions and commitments, 28 May 2026. Number 6 will be quarterly implementation report 2026 and CFT reaction. All right, so number 6, quarterly implementation report and CFD reaction, and that includes budget amendment. Then number 7 will be announcement, executive council, and number 8 will be closing. So if there's no other proposal with respect to the budget, that will be, we will approve the budget as presented. Agenda point number 4, if the documents, in the documents, you have the list of incoming documents for the Island Council. Are there any comments on the list of incoming documents? Council Lady Spanakati.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman. I noticed I haven't seen it before on the incoming documents. I don't know why there are 2 recipients from whom we received information blocked out. I don't see why. Could we get an explanation on the reason for that?
Okay, the explanation is that it comes from a private individual who may not have given permission to publish their name, so that's why it's blocked out. That's it. Thank you. Any other comments on the list of incoming documents? If not, then we will ratify the list as proposed. Agenda point number 5, ratification list of decisions and commitments of our meeting of May 28. Are there any remarks on this list of decisions and commitment? Council Lady Spanakati.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. On page 6, Commissioner Merkman promised me some answers in writing that I didn't receive.
Can you maybe mention topic, subject? Tourism Master Plan. That's a topic, Tourism Master Plan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Those answers will be on the way this week. We are finalizing the written answers.
That's it, Council Lady. Anyone else on the list of decisions and commitments? If not, then we will ratify the list as proposed. Agenda point number 6 is a quarterly implementation report and the first budget amendment 2026 with the CFD reactions and advice. For this agenda point, we'll be handling the first quarterly implementation report and the first budget amendment 2026 and the CFD reaction and advice, translated als de eerste uitvoeringsrapportage en eerste begrotingswijziging. For further information on this agenda point, I would like to give the word to Commissioner Merkman of Finance to give a further introduction to this agenda point. Ms. Commissioner Merkman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. What we have before us is actually our first budget amendment, where we are bringing certain things into perspective, where maybe we have to allocate some additional funding, and based on what we are seeing relating to the uitvoerings rapportage, the CFD is saying, listen, guys, there is some underspending, and the underspending relates to more in the vacatures, because and that's a constant thing that is coming back, relating to the opening, the vacancies. But they also noted inside of that they have noticed a significant increase in the efforts of the Island Territory in filling those vacancies, because now, but they also caution in the same breath that they've noticed that the amount of personnel required has increased. I think it went up from 250 something to 268. So those are some of the things that they are pointing out. But pertaining to the uitvoerende rapportage, those are something that we are pretty much online. We're not overspending money, so that is a good thing. But we have to. They haven't recommended any measures to compensate with that, because they also realize that this is actually the first part of the year. As you go in the year, you might be able to fill some of them still. So, so, and they also observe that they are still noticing financial improvements. So those are some of the good things and some of the bad things that they notice with the budget amendment and the uitvoerings rapportage. For a more elaborate presentation on the budget amendment, I will now request your indulgence, your permission, to allow the manager of the unit finance to deliver a comprehensive presentation, with your indulgence.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Merkman. Before Mr. Tuwitt makes his presentation, I think we need a few minutes to resolve some technical issues with our screen. So we'll adjourn for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back with your presentation. So the meeting is adjourned for 10 minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to resume, and we go right into the presentation with Mr. Tuitz.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to everyone. Chairman, I will give a presentation of the first implementation report for the year 2026. If you take a look at the figures, then you will see that on the actual figures for the year 2026, you see that the income side, you had a realization of about 7.7 million, which is 27% of the budget. And that is reasonable because 25% is a quarter. So that is a reasonable amount. On the expenditure side, we have, as was said already, some underspending, and the total amount of the realization is 6.6 million, which turns out to be 23%. So you can see that it's below the 25% range. Then we go to the next schedule. It gives a breakdown of the categories of the revenues. And as you can note, you will see that in the realization, the 7.7 million, the biggest part naturally is the free allowance, which was 5.7 million. And then the second biggest one is the harbor with 527K, and interest income 459K. If we look at the expenditure side, then you will see that the personnel expenses is 3.8 million. Another large one is the property management expenses, 688K, and the subsidies and financial contributions that contribute 441K. And if you look at the realization that first period generated, it's 1.1 million. So that is good as far as that is concerned. However, when we pull the projection after the budget amendments, let's say the surplus goes down to 133K, which is a good bit below the 1.1 million that we had during the first quarter. We go to the next schedule. There you'll see a better breakdown of the budgeted amounts compared to the realization. So as you can see, the budgeted amount in total was 7.2 million, and the realization, as we already said, was 7.7 million. So That gives you a difference of half a million. The other one, the special allowances, also give a different picture that it's about 7.8 million less than was projected. So the projects, you could say, are moving a little slower. On that same page, you can see that the three items that contributed to the difference, or the positive difference, was local levies. You could see that it contributed 109K. The waste management, and that always is like that in the first quarter you collect the big chunk of the waste management, and then during the year, you collect less. And then the third one is the property management income. That one also contributed 161K. Then we continue to the next schedule. That gives you a breakdown of the budget and the realization for the expenditure side. Just now we did the revenue side. Now we're doing the expenditure side. As you can see, the budgeted amount for personnel was almost 4 million, and we realized 3.8 million. And then you go to another big one, the general expenses. It was budgeted 289K, and we realized 179K, which gave a difference of 110K. And as we said just now too, the subsidy and financial contributions, that is 611K was budgeted, 441K was spent. So you underspend 171K. And the other expenditure, that gave an increase. So that gives you a picture of which items contributed to the result. Then we continue on to the other big schedule. Okay, this schedule gives you a picture of the amendments that were made. As you can notice, the biggest amendment was 1.3 million, and that is because the system was changed a little bit as far as the free allowances are concerned, and that amount then, the 1.3 million, is the indexation of the free allowance. So they have a new system that they use to index it, and it generates between 1.2 to 1.4 million extra revenue. Then if we look at the expenditure side, we'll see that the bestuursapparaat, that's the government itself, had an adjustment for 650. That had to do with the amount that was adjusted of 5.5% increase to the personnel costs or salaries. And then there was also what they call a rechttrekking with the salaries of the RCN so that you don't have a big difference within that. There was also adjustment for the airport, an adjustment for culture and recreation of 480, and another large one was social and young people for 678,000. If you take all the adjustments together, it will come with a negative of 514K, and the budget was projecting 647, but then it cut it down to the projection for the year to 133K. So to the other schedule, that one gives an overview of the effect of one of the items, which is the personnel. And that one, the CFT asked us to present what the effect will be on the multi-annual budget. So that's why we presented 2027, 2028, and 2029. So then you'll get a view that even though you had the salary increases, your budget is still balanced. Then we go to the This is the other schedule where you have the primary budget, the realization, and the budget amendment in between two. So you could compare them and see what the changes are. As you know, the realization is 1.1 million. However, when you project it after the budget amendments, it goes down to 133K, and the primary budget had estimated or projected surplus of 647K. Then we have an overview of the cash at the banks. Yeah, this gives you an overview of the cash in the banks at the end of 2025 and at the end of March 2026. The liquid amount at year end was 113 million, and in March it went up to 123 million. You'll have to deduct the special allowances, also because the loan, the money that you get from the loan, it has a specific purpose, so that you'll have to deduct it too, and the designated reserves, that also, and the free allowance. So then the total disposable liquidity, then it was at year end it was almost 6 million, and at the end of March it was almost 10 million. Then we get an overview of the balance sheet. The liquid asset, as we said just now, is 123 million. Then we have the receivables. There was a 5.4 million. Then the financial fixed assets, those are the investments that we have. So that's UTEL, Stuco, Opna Bank, and Saber Bank. Then the total assets comes up to 154. The next schedule gives you the liabilities and equity, or surplus, you could call it, in this case. The short-term liabilities and accruals, it covers 107 million. You have the long-term, 7.5 million. The provisions. What we are doing, we are busy getting appraisal for the pension for the former authorities, because we'll be getting within the next few months a report. We finished gathering the information. We will send it to the actuaries, and he will do the calculations to see if the 450,000 that we have there, if that is enough to cover that expenditure. And the equity is rounded off 38 million. So that's a reasonable buffer. Then we go over to the investment schedule. Yep. In the investment schedule, you could take a look at certain of the investments and the amendments that were made. And the investments come up to 713K. And these, the total investments that we want to make is, after the budget amendment, is 8.8 million. So this gives you an overview of which investments are on the list to be executed once the cash flow is there. Okay, the next schedule gives you an overview of the cash flow. If you take the actual of 2026, you see that at the end of the period of 2026, March, you had a cash balance of 118 million. Then we go over to, we had that we are working on improving the implementation reports. Also, Mr. Chairman, we went over the investments that would be made. We also, in the current period, we had a surplus, and we expect a surplus going forward to year end. As far as the CFT reports are concerned, for the last quarter, we got a positive report from the CFT. For this implementation report, also, we got a positive advice from the CFT. However, as I said, they requested us to make the projection so that you could see in the coming years, that in the multi-annual budget, that it does not affect it in such a way that it goes from positive to negative. We showed that. So we complied with the request of the CFT. Also, we are contemplating to see how we can get a tool to administer the assets, because with all those special project assets, it is it's over 100, so it's cumbersome if you don't have a good program to administer them. During the third quarter last year, we did some extra training of our personnel, where they are becoming more proficient in the operation and proficient in making the reports. As you know, we have the quarterly reports, we have the budget, and we have the financial statement. So those are the reports that we have to produce on a timely basis. Mr. Chairman, that was the presentation. Try to keep it short.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tuitt, for the presentation. So now that the presentation is complete, we will go over to the deliberations and questions. We will deliberate in two rounds. The usual time proposed is 20 minutes in the first round, 10 in the second round, unless there's other proposal from the members. Speaking order is Councilman Derek Simmons, Council Lady Raquel Spanakati, Council Lady Mercedes Loeb-Spanner, Councilman Glenn Schmidt. So we proceed with the first round of deliberations. Councilman Simmons.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of information. A question. What I'm missing is the diagrams. You know, I constantly say, you know, one diagram gives a lot of information. So by having diagrams, putting things, in one shot you can see a lot. And what I noticed too is some places you have the minus sign on figures, and other places you have the between brackets. I think, you know, it should maintain, you know, one standard. You know, sometimes I wonder why you have that format with the brackets, because regular people will understand what minus is, but they wouldn't understand what a bracket, you know, that the bracket actually means that it's minus. Yeah, and a question, because when I go all the way down to the last page, you have FTE movements, and you say new hires 8, outflow 7. You know, it just comes, it's like you mixing terms. One is new hires and one is thing. So it's just, I'm just commenting based on, you know, the wording to you know, to make sure that you're not have apples and oranges, but you're talking about the same thing. So, but a question I'm asking, because is there is the government basically concerned about the wegreizing? Because, you know, you fill in a lot of vacancies, but I guess you also seen a lot of retirements taking place. And I think when you look within the next 3 to 4 years, probably half the government's gonna you're gonna lose a lot of your staff. So is the government still working on that? And another question concerning the payment of taxes, the withholdings. I notice there is a sort of change in the tax system. When you go over a certain amount, you go in a different bracket. Is that being monitored, or is it basically depending, you just withhold, but if the person falls in a higher bracket, basically they might get in trouble? Yeah, those are kind of my questions. And yeah, I must emphasize on using those graphics, pictures. To me, it helps a lot, and it basically eliminates the need to going through all those figures and trying to understand what it means. And I'm talking from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Simmons. Council Lady Spanakati, first round.
Thank you, Chairman. First off, I want to, in reference to the letter received on the 13th of May from the CFT, I want to congratulate you all on the positive ordeal. I don't know what. Advice. Yeah, the positive advice. One thing I see keep coming back in their advice or their letters is the fact that they state that a good administrative process for the bijzondere uitkeringen. I think we all know then that we have a capacity issue, but this administration thing keeps coming back, and we could be doing it so good, but if our administration is lacking, then we can't even reflect it. So I think that is something that we need to focus on. In the same letter, on the vervolg point 2, I'm sorry, I have the Dutch version, I don't know, there's an English one. So it asks for specific attention for the completeness of the opgenomen bijzondere baten en lasten. I was wondering why it was incomplete. I have some concerns when it regards to personnel. I see that in 2025, the total formation was 254 FTE, but we filled 187, so we have 67 open spots. In 2026, the total needed is 268. So I was wondering, between the 255 from last year to 268, I was wondering where the 14 additional positions came from. Where, if I could know what they are and how we come to the fact that we need them. And like my colleague on the other side said, Mr. Simmons, I was wondering too about a projection on the loss due to retirement ages. This is something that I keep honing into, knowing some will be retiring soon over the next couple of years. I was wondering too how the mistake was made. Chairman, I'll read it in Dutch if that's okay. I don't know what the regulation is, but het CFT constateert dat de begrote bijzondere uitkering van 30,1 miljoen zowel aan de baten als aan de lastenzijde per abuis niet in de UR zijn opgenomen. So 30.1 million was completely left out. How did this happen? I'm reading on It's still in the letter, the body of the 13th of May from the CFT. Then in the graph, in tabel 1, y'all have bij overige lasten, eerste UR van 2026, y'all have 0,4 million. En begroting 0,3. And the realization is 135%. Can I explain that? Okay. I know we had an issue years gone by with collection on repeat which one? Yeah. So the realization of the overige lasten. That's sufficient? You all have, bij de eerste UR, you have 2026 is 0,4, and then bij de begroting 2026 is 0,3. En dan de realisatie is 135%. Yeah, as I was saying, I know government has a difficulty in collection. We don't have many means at our disposal to collect, especially when people have things outstanding. But there is a statement in the response from CFT that says that bij de algemene lasten a realization took place op post-openstaande vorderingen. Voor de postsubsidies blijkt dat deze met name aan stichtingen en verenigingen lager uitvallen dan begroot. Could this be explained as well? Because, and this relates to the next question that I have regarding the property management income that Unit Manager Tuwit just gave in his presentation. He said the income from the document states the income from property management amounts to 243K, 244 afgerond, and shows an increase of 160K, which is 193% compared to the budget period. Now, I'm assuming this was projected, so how could you collect nearly 200% of what you projected, and then over what period of time are we speaking? And could you all explain as well how? How is it that we collected so much more than we expected? Has the collection manner changed? The way in which we collect? I know something was explained about the increase in the taxes for the land tax, or is it land tax, rent? Erfpacht. But if it's based on an increase that we self as a government implemented, then it would be in your projections as well. It would have followed nearly 200 more, 2 times the amount that you expected. Page 23. If I could get an explanation, please, on what is the basis for the multi-annual increase of the free allowance? It goes from 23.8 million in 2026 to 25 million in 2029. Are these figures based on the February circulaire? Also, regarding the same letter from the CFT that I was reading from, I would like to know if the recommendations that it gave were taken up with regard to the progress report and the budget amendment, complete inclusion in the quarterly progress report of income and expenditures or special allowances, include additional information better motivating the amendments, provide a multi-annual projections of costs that continue in the future, and the explanation of the raise in personnel expenses, and not in comparison to RCN. For the second quarterly progress report, the CFT advises to pay attention to the limited filling of vacancies in 2024 and 25, and explain what approach is being followed in 2026. I think that's a council shared concern regarding how we're going to recruit. I know in the past there was some special recruitment attempts. We attended Jaarbörsen, etc. How are we going to continue moving forward? And could I get a better explanation or motivation for the projected raise in the tourist tax? That's it for me, Chairman.
Thank you, Council Lady Spanakati. Council Lady Lopes Banner.
Thank you, Councilman. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to also say congratulations to all of them at the Finance Department for the positive advice. I would be honest and tell you where the documents for this finance is concerned. I did not even self-glimpse at it because it makes my head feel crazy. But anyway, what I want to ask is what my colleague just mentioned too, about the collection for the government. How are that moving forward with collecting the outstanding out there that belongs to government? How are we managing? Is it going good? Or we are still in the same predicament? So that's all for now for me.
Thank you, Council Lady Lopes Banner. Okay, in this first round, I have a few questions of my own. All right, on the vacancies, I too have a question about where the additional vacancies were from the 254 from 2025 to the 268 now. Where were these new vacancies? Were these new vacancies created? So can the government explain these additional 14 new vacancies? And then on the tourism tax, well, I'm basically questioning the term tourism tax. Is that the same as the room tax, or is that something new, something different? I know we were busy trying to introduce a new tax to replace airport tax, etc. I think that's what we were terming tourism tax. So the only tourism-related tax I know now is the room tax. So is that the case? I see throughout the document that there's an increase of 5.5% of salaries based on the result of CLA negotiations. My request is, if it's possible, for the Island Council to receive the results of these CLA negotiations on an annual basis. I know in the past these negotiations were basically carried out by the RCN, and the local government will follow. But we do not, as a matter of course, receive the results of those negotiations. So if we're going to be following them, I think we should also be shared these documents. I guess the Executive Council gets them. I think the Island Council should also have insight in the result of those negotiations. With respect to the increase in the free allowance, so the free allowance was increased. I think a similar question was asked a while ago. So are we adding more staff, so more positions, more FTEs, because we are getting more free allowance? Or is there a real reason, if there's a real need for the additional personnel? So because we know we are getting an extra million in FTE, in a free allowance, we create new positions. Is that what's happening? Or are we creating new services, new department, new units in the departments? So the question is basically, is there a correlation between receiving the free allowance and the creation of new functions? I see there's a 95% realization in waste tax, so based on your budget projection. Yeah, so you're receiving basically the tax you're expecting with respect to waste collection. My question though is, are all addresses on the island registered for the waste tax? So waste tax is collected per household. So are all households registered in the census office also registered for the waste tax collection? And some time ago, there was a plan by the waste management to have, I guess, some sort of information campaign to educate folks with respect to the waste fees and that the proper separation is taking place. I don't recall that campaign taking place. So can you inform us whether that campaign took place already, if there's still a need for it or not? Also with respect to the waste plan, in addition to waste collection and incineration, etc., there's other recycling activities going on at the waste plant. Can we get an idea of what the various recycling activities going on at the waste plant? I understand new products are being produced over there as well. Where is the revenue and cost of these other activities reflected in the financial statements? And it would be good, I think, if the council can get something in writing, a document describing these activities at the waste facility and the financial revenue or costs associated with them. Also, their recycled materials, I think, are being shipped out. Can we also get an indication of what is being shipped out, where to, what frequency, and what revenue is generated from that? And again, where is that reflected in the financial statement? On page 13, there's a temporary lease land arrangement for 200K. Can you explain what that is? Page 13, 1-3, second paragraph. Temporary lease land arrangement for 200,000. And I think on the same page 13, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yes, and also on page 13, the last paragraph, there's something saying additional budget employee Christmas gala for $30,000, 30K. Christmas gala is 1 day and a salary of 30K. So can we get an explanation of that, please? The study allowance budget. I think not long ago we passed the ordinance for study allowance. So how many, can we get a report on that? So how many students are currently enrolled in this study allowance program from the island? And the outlook for the coming school year in terms of numbers and budget needs. Additional funding for Carnival, I see 15K. I hope the Carnival committee is happy with that. 15K. So can you give a little explanation as to, is that, what is it, well, maybe you don't want to say, but what is the financial arrangements for the Carnival committee this year? If you can mention figures on that. And also for Statia Day, I see another 400K, 400,000 being reserved for Statia Day. Activities, is that the total cost of the celebration activities, or should we expect more requests for Statia Day going forward? On page 19 of the report, Slachthuizen, I'm looking at a revenue of 121,000 versus expenditures of 737,000, which is a big difference. I'm just wondering what is being done to increase the revenue potential possibilities for the slaughterhouse. Yeah, and the expenditures, is that for the slaughterhouse per se, so not for other sections of agriculture, but for the slaughterhouse, 737,000 per year. Is that mostly salaries? Is that, what makes some of that 737,000? And the income of 121, is that, what is the revenue source there? I guess people pay to slaughter animals there, pay for permits. So maybe you can explain that. And in the past we've had a lot of talks, and now there are lots of talk about agriculture and stimulating agricultural production and food security. So what proposals are there by government for more processing of agricultural produce? So processing of meat, for example. I think folks have been sent out in the past to train and learn for this type of thing, to cut particular cuts of meat, etc., processing for burgers and that type of stuff. What are the plans with respect to increasing revenue with those types of activities at the slaughterhouse. And then in the document, I don't have the page, I mean, the topic reiniging, what falls under reiniging? Is reiniging the cleaning of the roads, or can you explain what falls under reiniging? Then on page 2021, there's talk about a client payment website. That is with respect to page 2021. Yeah, so this has also to do with the tourist tax. So the projected increase in tourist tax revenue is based on information obtained from the client payment website, among others. Can you explain exactly what this payment website is, this client payment website, where information on the tourist tax can be found, and where we can find that website? Mention is also made about negotiations with GTI, the terminal here in Statia, that those negotiations should have started in May this year. Can we get an update as to whether these negotiations have started? And relating to on page 59, can we also get an update on the incinerator? I think an incinerator was ordered for the waste plant as well. Can we get an update on that in terms of cost and delivery time? Those are my questions. Answering questions, can we go over to that, or is there a need for an adjournment? Commissioner
Thank you, Mr.
Merkman.
Chairman. Yes, there's a need for adjournment. I would like to request an adjournment of 1 hour, please.
1 hour. Okay, without objection, we'll adjourn for 1 hour. Yeah, thank you. So we'll be back. We'll be back. Hello. Hello. Yeah. So 4:25, we'll be back here. 4:25. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to resume our meeting, our Central Committee meeting for today. We adjourned the meeting after the first round of deliberations. And I think the word now is to the Commissioner for answering questions posed in the first round of discussions. So I give the word to Commissioner Merkman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The questions were quite extensive. I don't know if I should congratulate the council for all those questions because it was quite taxing to come up with quite a number of the answers. So I still need to compliment you on the in-depthness of your questions. One of the questions was relating to diagrams in being used within the document. I think we always try to meet the wishes of the council, but we are working on it to include more diagrams. But with in the process that we are involved in, we try to be as complete as possible with the numbers. And I think the numbers are more complete. When you have a diagram, sometimes you have to try to figure out, is it really 78% or 74%? You know, you have to try to figure. But I do agree with the councilman that the diagrams gives you a good picture just by looking at it quickly too. So, but in the budget, we will make a bigger effort to do that. One of the things, the next question was in the change in the tax structure because of people falling into a higher tax bracket. If we take that into consideration, those taxes are technically not paid to us. It's a federal tax. That means it's paid to the Netherlands, those income taxes. So we technically are just, I always say we are just a behavior. We are just we are just a collector and passing it on. We don't really get anything of that, you know. But when they go into a higher tax bracket, we have to make sure that we keep that we can pass on the correct amount of taxes. So when you get in a higher bracket, we have to take that into consideration. But I would like to again reiterate, we have technically no input on that. It is a federal tax. Pertaining to the positive advice on the CFT, we always follow the advice of the CFT. If we don't follow the advice from the TFT, we can get in a problem. And pertaining to the good administrative process for the free allowance, this still remains a challenge, but we are working on it, and we are improving our administrative process. And if the question that Council Lady Spanner took was from the first report that came from the CFT. And the second report from the CFT mentioned that they see that we have taken into consideration their remarks. So we did improve on that. There was they were requesting specific attention for income and expenditures. What happened is, in the first report, we use a cumulative figure. And in the second report, we use an individual one. And if you look in the letter of June 11, they indicated that was an improvement. There was a 30 million per abers need opgenomen, and that came because this is a new requirement within from the CFT. So we started doing that now. So that's why it's there now. It wasn't in the one from 2026. It's a new requirement they have relating to the bijzondere uitkeringen. So now we started doing it. So it was technically, it was not a mistake, but it was just something that we started doing. There was a question about overgelasten, the 300,000 and the 400,000, and the realization was 135%, which is it is correct. What you indicate about overspending is correct, because if you're the 300,000 is 100%, and I'll say that though 3 deal, then come your 3% when you add it on, you can get like close to 135%. But the numbers, there's some additional numbers behind the 300,000 that is not there. They just have the 300 afterrun, so that's why you get 35%. So that's the explanation for that. It says, you had also a question about the algemene kosten lager uitgevallen dan begroot. And that was because we are now sending out the hereby for 3 years. You know, and then what happened is people are now coming in and they can make arrangements to pay. Normally, it's done for 1 year, but because we wasn't collecting for since about, I think it's 2021, we haven't been collecting hereby because of a decision of the Island Council. So that's why the revenues are higher. Multi-annual increase for the free allowance. The free allowance is also given, the decision pertaining to the amount of the free allowance is made based on reports. You have, let's say, you have the Idaversa report, or even if you have like the Today report that indicates that you know, the free allowance is too low, then the Netherlands would make a decision to increase the free allowance based on those reports. And it's, they are structural increases. And I think generally on average is like 2.6 million per year. Yeah. So. And what you indicated about the circular, you are on point. The circular is what we also use to budget what we expect to get. You asked, was the recommendations of the CFT taken up? Yes. Op 3 juni 2006 ontving de CST aanvullende informatie die nodig was voor een zorgvuldig oordeel. Dat is in the letter of June 3rd. June 11th, sorry. June 3rd was sent, sorry. Storage taxes, yeah. How is collection of government outstanding progressing? I think it's going a lot better now. We have specifically persons that are dedicated to that, to make sure that we collect the monies that we have outstanding, and that's why also it's also reflected in the uitvoeringsrapportage that government is collecting a lot more according to the CFT. So we have people that are specifically dedicated to collecting the outstandings of government within the finance department, of course. Oh, there was a question also relating to the waste tax. That 95% is collected, and are all addresses registered. I think what happened is in that situation is that waste tax and most of us have a vehicle, so we get the number plate tax we have to pay at least, and should be paid by the first quarter of the year. So that's why most people diligently pay those taxes at the start of the first of the year. So that's why 95% is being indicated as being paid as the realization. What we have now is pertaining to, we are also looking at the possibility of including a system that is called Basis Administratie Gebouwen, BAG, that will register the houses, because we also are cognizant of the fact that we haven't done this in years, really check to see that what houses are on station, people living in them, so that we can have a complete administration, a complete database. Well, we are working on it. And did the waste campaign take place? That was one of the questions. And the answer, sorry about that, we didn't do that. No. It still is something that we would like to do. Sorry? Excuse me? The waste campaign. Yeah. And it's something that we have on the agenda, because it all has to do with the overall waste vision that we have, because it hurts my heart to say this, that we don't have an incinerator. So we are now moving to, and you asked the right question, what's the status of it? The fabrication of we have already made payments for the fabrication of the waste incinerator. And we are now currently reviewing the floor plans where the waste plant, where the incinerator will come, because where it's going to come, it's going to be a big thing. So where special concrete will have to be, the concrete would have to be specially hard in certain areas, so that where the waste plant is coming, it that it could withstand a force. So you need a reinforced foundation, and this will be tendered out by the end of the year. Fabrication and delivery to Stacia is expected in the second quarter of 2027, sorry. I think last year, I believe it was, Commissioner Leerdam and two persons visited two of the factories in the UK, and we, based on that, the report, we selected which one? Advil or Advil? I'm not sure. Advil. We selected a company to complete the building of this incinerator. It was a different company than what we had an agreement with to build it before, because this company, Advil, was coming out cheaper and was delivering an incinerator that was better than the one and bigger than the one we was looking at before. This incinerator will run for 24 hours, and it also offers us the opportunity to make ourselves more attractive to other islands around that can't really use an incinerator. Okay. Yeah. The price of the incinerator that for the total project is close to $2.95 million. You asked about the 200,000 that is reflected there. That is actually what we are with. I want to say this softly, but I don't know how to say. The 200,000 that you see reflected there is from the project that is ongoing in the farm, and we started collecting in February. So it's the price that they pay per month is for the use of the farm is approximately $20,000 a month. And then you also had a question about the Christmas gala. It used to be more. So what you're seeing reflected there is actually we felt that it needed to be pulled back. So it's not the amount it used to be. You got to one of the studio ones. You asked a question also about education relating to the students that with the study allowance. We currently have 25 students that are benefiting from this, and there is sufficient money on the regular budget to cover for everything that we expect. We expect that application of 16 more, so we expect it to go to 41 for this new school year, 2026, 2027, and we have enough money for that, to cover that. And you had a question, what is the new unit? Yes. Yes stands for Youth, Education, and Sport. And you asked about you had a question about Rainy King. Rainy King are the cleaning crews that are operating on the island. We have 3 cleaning crews, and we are also looking at, well, they don't fall under Rainy King, they fall under something else. But we have 3 cleaning crews. And you asked about a client payment website. That has to do with the information was garnered from the web, which is booking agencies and AFAS, relating to how we came behind for the tourists. I don't know. Well, the correct name is tourist tax, but we know it under room tax. So, but that would be explained a little bit more in depth by the commissioner of tourism. Okay, I think that's it for me. I think that's it for the questions that fell to me. The commissioner will now answer her questions.
No, I got mine.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Merkman, Commissioner Leardam.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. With your indulgence, I would like to ask the Director of the Department of Finance and also Personnel. She will go more in depth into all the personnel questions, and then I will add in different areas when it comes to the slaughterhouse, the carnival, and also give additional elucidation on tourist tax information. With your indulgence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon. Okay. As indicated, there were a few questions with regard to personnel, and I will try to answer those to the best of my ability. There was a question with regards to the aging of the civil service. We do have an aging civil service, and we have a 2-prong approach that we are trying to address the aging population with. Operationally, we have a policy that stipulates at least 6 months before the civil servant goes on pension that a transfer plan is supposed to be drawn up, and that we try and we identify and start the selection procedure for a new candidate as early as possible. From a more strategic approach, a consultant was hired to look at the strategic personnel planning for the government. So that entails hiring throughput, but also as it relates to the aging population, the needs of the organization going forward. A consultant was hired. Unfortunately, the assignment was not progressing as we wished. So we are actually now in the process of looking for a new consultant to carry out this assignment. There was some questions related to new functions. As indicated, there are 14 new functions in this budget as opposed to last year. One of the exercises that is done yearly is that interview is done with all departments to identify the needs of the departments based on the workload that we have. Based on that exercise, it usually generates a list of all the needs with regard to new functions. That list is then discussed with the Executive Council, and we look at what is essential, what do we absolutely have to carry out now, and what we can postpone. Based on some agreements that the Executive Council had, like the creation of the new department, yes, the instating of a culture department, but also obligations that we have because of new requirements from also the side of the ministry. So having an internal control department, these are all exercises or things that we went through that we had to add to the budget. Some are structural, some are not structural. It also includes the overview, for instance, of the persons for the Stacia career launch. Those are all, some, like I said, structural vacancies, some not. The question was asked with regard to, does increase in the free allowance automatically translate into increase in personnel? No, it doesn't. The free allowance increases for different reasons, but we do have to evaluate annually based on the needs of the departments and the needs of the government, what do we actually have to do at this moment. There were some questions with regard to the 5.5% wage increase. The 5.5 wage increase stems from the collective wage agreement. The CLA agreements or the CLA negotiations are actually done by the RCN, of which the public entities are actually only observers. However, there are certain parts of the CLA that automatically applies also for the public entity. The 5% wage increase, 5.5% wage increase being one of those things. You see what happens with the CLA. There are certain parts of our labor agreement that are regulated on a national level. And there are certain things that are also delegated to the island responsibility, so island ordinances. Everything that is regulated on a national level, they are adopted in the, what we call the rechtspositiebesluit ambtenaren, and those components we are compelled to follow. There are also other parts of the CLA that we have to adhere to. Those relates to adjustments to salary allowances and the increase in the pension parameters. Those were things that were also adopted. Adopting these things also helps us to keep in line with the payment structure that is maintained in the best. So it does help us to stay as a competitive employer, which also increases the chances of getting new employees. The council asked if it's possible to receive a copy of the agreements, and that is definitely possible. I think those were all the questions that it had related to personnel. Okay, the commissioner asked if I could also give a short clarification with regard to the tourist tax. Yes, in accordance with our legislation, the official terminology is tourist tax. In the Volksmund, I think we always call it a room tax. I know that there have been conversations about expanding on the current tourist tax, but right now, the tourist tax that we refer to is the same thing as the room tax, and there is intent to expound on that. Hope that clarifies it. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. There was a question missed by Councilman Smith, and Commissioner asked me if we can just provide the information instead of going back to him. It was about the type of materials at the waste management, and the information received was the company hired to manage the waste plant is only contractually responsible for collection of household waste, recyclable and non-recyclable, and the management of the landfill, the dump. Most recyclable materials are shipped off island to third parties. Recyclable materials are baled cardboard, tin cans, scrap metal, including car wrecks, and specific plastics. The materials are stored at the warehouse on the landfill until enough quantity is generated to justify shipping them off the island. On average, it takes about 5 years to generate the volume. No revenue is generated in this exchange, as the cost to ship the material is covered by the third party. The third party sends a 50 megaton barge to pick up the materials. Essentially, the third party takes our recyclable waste for free. Materials that are left on the island are crushed glass and wood chips. These are freely available and accessible to anyone on the island who would like to use them. Some entities have used these materials for other products, but the number of entities do so is very limited. Some households have used the wood chips as mulch or to cover dusty areas. The list of stuff that you requested will have to come in writing as you requested, but this is just an update on what you asked. And also more information on the contractor who's now running the waste management will have to come in writing as well. Correct. If I can continue, I will with Councilman Smith. You asked about the revenues and the expenses at the slaughterhouse. For the expenses, we have to do some in-depth research because most of the programs that are being run now on the SAPSA are monies that we are getting under the NEP program and monies that was also given via the ministry. So the finance manager said he will have a more in-depth approach and to have a breakdown of the expenses of the 737,000. Under the NEP program, the slaughterhouse will be renovated, and the tender will be put out in Q3 of 2026, with implementation starting by Q1 of 2027. The SAPSA program, there are plans to add a meat processing to the services at the slaughterhouse as well as an agro-processing plant. The value-added products can be sold to neighboring islands for profit, but enough volume is needed to be priced competitively. The islands need more dedicated commercial crop and livestock farmers to generate enough product to be sold for revenue generation. And we hope to achieve this under the SAPSA with the help of station dedicated farmers. So basically, we are working towards first creating the quantity. There's also plans and hopes that we are starting with certain business cases that we can start to come to of course the council have to do that, but working towards a proposal whereby we come with a proposal to the council that we can work on the importation of certain products of the island. Once we know we can meet the demands of the island, eggs is one of them that we're looking towards to see how we can decrease the import, or put a tax bracket, not a tax bracket, but an import quota. So we're looking at different ways that we can work towards that so we can strengthen the local market on the island. And then next we're talking about different types of crops that we're going to be growing to see what can be done, what can be produced to the demand of the island first, and of course export after, that we can also stop certain types of imports to the island. But of course that's a program that has a longer tail because we have to ensure that we have farmers who want to grow commercially, and we're supporting that aspect for both livestock and also crops. The tourist tax, as was explained, so the legitimate terminology is tourist tax, what we call room tax. Of course, the tourism master plan was finalized. There was 2 studies done on what the island can potentially charge if we want to go into that new direction. I think there's a discussion that we have to still finalize it in the Island Council, that you have a role to play. I think that's one of the questions that we saw as well. Definitely the Island Council will have to put that ordinance in place before we move over to any type of collection of tourism tax. I would not say any figures here because I think well, the one was already mentioned in the master plan, so that is very clear, and the other one was still, it was discussed within the Island Council, to the Island Council. But the master plan already projected an amount of $100, and I know it caused a bit of concern, but it's a recommendation, so you don't have to charge $100. So the Island Council will have to discuss with the Executive Council the appropriate amount that we think we can start off with. Our ordinance will have to be adjusted or put in place for that. We're also, while we're doing that, have to work towards the whole entry. So that is part of the recommendations coming out of the Tourism Master Plan, whereby once you enter, be similar to Bonaire, you have to follow this document. And when you follow the document, then the tourist tax, if I can call it that, then will be then paid. So all of this is also part of the execution implementation plan of the Tourism Master Plan, but also in alignment with the Island Council motion that was passed, I think 2 years ago, to implement such a tax on the island. So we're working towards that. In relations towards the FTE, the director explained very well, but it's also not only based on the needs of the department, it's also based on the needs of the governing program. In the governing program, we also have more desires in terms of adding a constitutional department as well, adding economics department, the yes unit education department, so that is part taken up into the governing program, the education department. As the director said, we did have a company hired to look at the overall assessment needs. We know that Balance was hired a couple of years to make an assessment of the government and how it can run. I believe that was a more leaner approach. And as the demands are there and the services that you want to render to the community and the goals that you want to achieve, we realize that the current structure as is right now cannot deliver those demands. So therefore, we asked to see if we can find a company to make that overall assessment and see department, unit, what is needed based on the governing program that we especially have as one of the bases. But besides that, how they were reorganized and are we achieving the goals that we want to achieve. One such example is LVV. It was reorganized to a more leaner structure, but then we're talking about food security, and you don't have the tools or the personnel capacity there for us to achieve that. So based on a study done, we realized that we are understaffed, or we don't have the right capacity in the needed capacity in the department, and that's where it was restructured. This was also brought forward and shown a couple months ago, where we now have a unit manager, the veterinary services. We have added 3 additional personnel, extension officers, and a business case suit, so we can work towards all these businesses that we're talking about, strengthening when it comes to commercial aspect of our food security. The first year, these persons were paid by financing that we got, but eventually if you want to continue to achieve this, it have to be part of the budget. And as the director said, I can recall we were here discussing about the budget of 2026, and every department that who had their different needs and desires. And based on the fact that we had to balance the budget, we could not even put the real picture of the FTEs that we would need. We had to, like we said, on a need basis, and if we have to do a budget amendment and we can find funding to add them in, then we add in the second level priority, because all of them would say high priority, but we worked on what was needed most urgently. So finance was needed most urgently that we had to deal with, and again now we look at the same thing, what is needed most urgently that we can improve our administration and services to government. I did have the same discussion with CFT about the fact that they're mentioning we're top heavy or we have too much personnel, but the reality is if we have to carry it, especially within finance, I think we have a few more personnel that we have to hire. We can see already the benefits that is happening because now we have a department, a collection department, so we're seeing movements on areas that we've been discussing for a long, long time. And I would like to commend them because since they have been in existence, we have seen a lot of response coming out of them, even sometimes telling us where we went wrong as an OLA and ideas that we want to execute. They would advise us on that area as well. We see that they are responding to a lot of the clients, basically telling them the obligations. We did get some company that were a bit upset, but they have to follow, the enforcement of the ordinance. So they are really doing their best, and I really would like to thank them for the, I would say, great work that they've been doing since they've been installed. So that is where we are trying to achieve a robust government. I know we always say it comes with a price tag, and it do come with a price tag. I think the question about structural funding of positions, especially in the unit social domain, that has been a high concern of me because, we all know that most of social domain personnel is financed via special allowances. We just had a few more vacancies out, again, special allowances. So we want to ensure that whatever have to happen, that this money can be transferred to our budget, that we can maintain these services for the community. And there's a lot of services that you won't even believe would be lost if we don't have this. And this is not only Stacia, it's on Bonnier, it's on Sabre, because we're getting, additional finance to carry out these additional responsibilities. So the social unit domain have a lot of personnel. Majority of them is by financing through these special allowances, and a handful is basically government is who is on the budget. I saw a question, I think you didn't ask it, I'm going to still mention it, about the policies to help promote the private sector. So based on the master plan as well, we're working with a policy advisor from E&I, because we did have a discussion with the Ministry of AZK. And in that discussion, it was about how can we use at least the master plan to help jumpstart that industry of tourism in terms of helping get new entrepreneurs. They said that there was a pilot that was in Bonaire for a couple of years, and they can look into see if we can get a pilot on city stations that would help support entrepreneurs. So the policy advisors looking into that. Besides that, there was a consultation, a study done on economic reality of the 3 islands. The report is supposed to be finalized, and once that report is finalized, we'll also send it to the Island Council so you can see what the outlook is on the economic reality of St. Eustatius and what can be done, to help stimulate that. When it comes to Carnival, this budget was also reduced. Reality, they were requesting, needed about additional 60K. We have 40,000K that was always allocated. But this year, well, basically structurally they're working on a proposal to finalize the proposal, but they need about 100,000 minimum so they can at least be able to be revenue generating in a couple of years. So they're finalizing the proposal to the Executive Council so we can see, how they can become more or less of a dependence on government and maybe more revenue generating. The shows are becoming bigger, as we can see, and the cost that is associated with those shows is also bigger. I just saw the traveling cost just to get some of these artists on the island is astronomical. But we know that the spin-off economically for the island is what is boosting the businesses. And for us as a government, our main focus as well is that the community, the businesses can feel that the revenue generating. So car rentals, hotels, supermarkets. Right now it's very difficult to find a place on St. Eustatius for Carnival. We're becoming more internationally known. I've heard of promoters reaching out big promoters that wants to keep a show on Stacia. So, we're getting our cultural identity out there. We did a video last year to showcase the king of the road march, soca. And, we want to document our history in many ways as possible. And we're looking to see how we can continue to assist the different entities who take part every year in Carnival, that we can make it grow bigger and bigger. And I would like to thank again the Carnival Committee for their hard work, because they're really working hard, and also all of the persons who are taking part, whether you're troop holders, booth holders, assisting in any type of way. Thank you so much for making Carnival what it is, and we see that this year is going to be even more interesting, more fun. So once we have the proposal from the committee, we will also share it with the Island Council, because of course as an Island Council you got to make sure that if you're investing in something, it makes sense. When it comes to Stacia Day, that's the hottest topic. That budget we have there is increase. We don't have the finalized budget as yet. So we're hoping that we can make do for now when it comes to Stacia Week and Stacia Morning program. As you know, we have plans, and you have been briefed behind closed door a bit about the morning program and in the week. But based on the type of celebration we're going to have this year, we expect to spend a bit more money. When it comes to the normal program that we run, when it comes to anything with foreign affairs, we expect the ministries to take on that part and financially pay that. But I might be coming to the Island Council shortly for some additional funding that I need for accommodations, because we all know everybody is trying to get to the island for Stacia Day of this year to commemorate it with us, persons who have never been home for a while. And we have been working diligently on getting a cruise ship to come to the island, and we are in the last stages of that. We're going to discuss, of course, with the ministry to see where they can contribute as well, and whereby we falter, we may have to ask the Island Council for some additional monies, because it's not funded within the budget amendment as we speak. But then we will see how we can make that reality. We're hoping that we can give some accommodations to about 99 rooms, so hopefully 100-something people can then be accommodated on the island, that we can have a very good celebration for Stacia 2026, the 250th salute. I think that is it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, commissioners and presenters. So we'll go on the second round of discussion on this agenda point, and I give the word to Councilman Simmons.
I have nothing to question. I just, I need to leave. I have a...
Need to leave?
Yeah, so I'm asking, I'm just leaving.
All right, thank you, Mr. Councilman Simmons. You're asked to be excused. Council Lady Raquel Spanacarty.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Merkman mentioned that the free allowance was indeed reflective of the February circulaire. Now, looking at the letter you also referenced, I think, no, the February circulaire itself, and you look at page 26 of the document, the amounts, I don't see them back. For instance, there's an additional free allowance that is mentioned in the circulaire. For 2025, there is 3.2 million, and for 2026, it's 3.086. But for 2026, you instead mentioned the same amount from 2025 in the budget, or in the, yeah, on page 26. Sorry, the implementation report, the same budget, but yeah. How to say it? So maybe, like Commissioner Merkman said, it was too extensive. So maybe these answers can be provided in writing so that I can really see it instead of just listening to you. Because when you put the two amounts side by, or the two graphs side by side, it is not really reflected as it should be. Okay, if you look in the saying envelope and what they're saying for the year, it doesn't correspond. I cannot find it back. Okay, compared to page 26. Then regarding the free allowance as well, I also was wondering, are the overdrafts paid on time? I remember there was ones that they were late and we were missing out on some interest. So, yeah, you get them on time? Okay. Up front, okay, even better. The next question that I had, based on the presentation from the director, I understood, I just want to clarify, did you indeed say that there's a 2-month transition period between somebody leaving and somebody taking a position? 6 months, okay, I was wondering if 2 months was realistic. Thank you. And another question that I would like answered in writing or maybe with a presentation later on, because I believe it should be detailed and it is not for now. I would like to know how the 165,000 that is ter beschikking gesteld for openbaar vervoer, so public transportation, how are we translating that into back to our community, because this is not something we are aware of. You heard things through the grapevine, and it is something that is very needed. And I think as a result, if this is available and we are spending it, then the community needs to know that it's there and how they can make use of it. Okay, so that is it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Lady Spanakati. Council Lady Lopes, Spanner.
What I wanted to make mention to and congratulate you all, the Finance Department, is the building. A few days ago, when I'm going to the north side, I saw the building and it was looking really nice with the railings and so. And I was wondering if the inside is also renovated, because I know there was talk about mold and those kind of things. So I just wanted to know if the inside too was, which is more important, if it's also renovated and fixed. But believe it or not, the building looks really nice. I also want to congratulate you all, Commissioner Ledam, concerning the Carnival as well. And I've been hearing so much good talks about it. So indeed, we have to make sure it's well done in order for our island to be contributed, to get the exposure and people come. And I understand what you're saying, and I feel it, because it's everywhere you go, people is asking. Imagine I'm in Aruba every month, and right in Aruba you're hearing so much every time about Stacia. We even have people coming for Carnival. They were saying that it was a bit expensive with the hotels and so, but they made it do. So they are coming and for Stacia Day as well. So indeed, we are getting exposure, and we just need to enjoy it while we can. Thank you so much, and you all continue doing a great job.
Thank you, Council Lady Lopes. All right, some follow-up questions for myself. I really want to emphasize this issue about the waste management addresses, to make sure that everyone who should be paying the waste tax is indeed paying. Yeah, I asked this question a year ago already, in the last budget. So I know you're getting your 95% from what you expect from your budget, But the question is, I have the impression that there are lots of people who are not paying the garbage collection fee because for some reason they're not. Because in the beginning you actually had to go to the waste plant and register yourself. Yeah. So I think government needs to really do an exercise to look into this, you know, to make sure that everybody is actually paying, yeah? So that it's a fair system, yeah? That not some are paying and others not. And part of the information campaign that was promised also was also to, so that the issue of who's paying and not paying would also surface from that information campaign, contacting the different residents, etc. So I really want to request government to make an effort to coalesce with the census departments and the, who's collecting the waste tax, by the way? Government. Okay, so it's an easy check between finance and census. Yeah, so I understand that the Christmas gala used to be more than 30,000. So why is it put there as an employee? Tell me exactly what the expense is all about. Yeah. That's what the book says. It says employee for 30,000, 30K. Okay, so I'll get a clarification on that. The Youth Education and Sport Department, so that's, I understand that's a new unit within Social Affairs, I think it is. So that's the new Education Department we've been asking for, is included in that. Commissioner Merkman.
Thank you. It says addition budget employee Christmas gala.
Oh, so it's the employee Christmas gala.
Yeah, employee
not
Christmas
an
gala.
Employee.
Christmas gala. Yeah. Employee Christmas gala says for the employees. For the employees.
There's something called punctuation. Eh? Punt and comma.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not one employee,
No.
but it's the the cost of the gala, the Christmas gala.
For the employees.
All right, so next time, you know, to set up your syntax a little different. So this new education department, is that, so you say that is functioning as education department, that folks can go there for education issues, and what's the location of that?
And if I can react to that, the yes department that we are looking at, it's not functional as yet. We haven't employed anybody for that as yet. What we have a consultant that is now on education, and this consultant, he did all the setup for the St. Martin department, so it was actually a bonus for us since he has the experience already. But the yes department is not functional. We haven't set it up as yet because budget. We just don't have the budget for it as yet. So we don't have the personnel for it as yet. But it's been organized within the social domain that they can apply for the students that are meet the criteria. They can apply at the social domain department, and it's being carried out by the social department. We have a policy worker that is partially responsible for education, but outside of that, the employee is also responsible for a lot more responsibilities. So we need somebody that is specifically going to be concentrating on education. because we recognize the need for that. So anyone out there that is can meet the criteria for studying in a region and you have a need, you can get more information from the social domain department. And as I indicated, it is something that a lot of the students that are studying specifically in the US, Canada, and in the region is using, because it can be quite expensive.
All right, thank you. Okay, I understand what Commissioner Laird explained about the need for personnel to carry out tasks, etc., growing needs, changing needs of the OLE. But based on my calculation, I see personnel affairs now is almost 60% of your cost. Expenses of 30 million and expenses of 17 million, so almost 60%. Yeah. So I know once ago the CFT was on your back when it was a lot less. So I think the importance of finding, investing some of the money also on the economic side to create jobs in the private sector, but government salaries are very attractive now. So everybody wants to work government. But when you get to a point where 60% and maybe struck 70% of your budget going to salaries, I think that's not sustainable in the long term. And when you have an economic crisis, you will be the first to have to send people home. Yeah. So there needs to be a balance, with the economic development. So some of that free outgetting money, we have to somehow try to funnel it in the private sector to create jobs out there. Yeah. So, but CFT these days is very lenient on you guys. Well, it seems so. Okay, so all right, I think I can leave it there for now. Commissioner Laird.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add 2 more comments. Yes, I agree with what you're saying, that the personnel is getting higher, but again, like I said, the demands that we're trying to achieve is also there higher. So it's a chicken and an egg, how can we deliver services? But in that same respects, as you said, that's why we hired a company to really look into the different departments to see, are we maybe underperforming in certain areas, and do we really need an extra FTA there, or maybe we just need to broaden the function a bit, that they can cover that additional pickup, because you don't have to hire somebody for every last thing. So that is why this is so important that we have this assessment to see how we can, even the future ambitions that the government has in terms, like I said, a constitutional department, especially since there's a lot of constitutional discussions going on right now. We need to have a dedicated constitutional department for that. How can we actively integrate this without blowing up the budget? And then most of these functions that are needed is top heavy, so they're high paying functions. And as you said, now government is very, very attractive with all this new CLA agreements that we are finding ourselves that having to take up. We did, for the consumption of the Island Council, we did requested the financing for the 5.5% from the ministry, in terms of now you just had agreements and now we have to take them up. And the finance department was like, I can remember talking to the unit manager about certain investments that we wanted to make. He's like, no, you have to pay the people. We have to take into consideration this 5.5%. So we had to put aside other things so we can actually make this happen. And when we requested the financing from the ministry, they said, no, take it from a free allowance. So, the question is, how do we go about, we're observers. I think the Island Council fought for that in the build with Van Huffelen. and this, she said she will give us observer status, so I think we get a little step in better. But I mean, they're making all these agreements, and then we may not have the budget to manage it, and if we have to manage it, we have to get rid of revenue generating investments, if I can say it like that, because we have to comply with this. So we did ask for financing to back it up. The councilman, Commissioner Support did talk about the last time when they talk about optional payment, when it was intervened in during the intervention, where the other islands took it up, the 36 work hour week and the retroactive. It was optional, and then they said it's mandatory, and then we had to pay it. So, you know, so some of these things, when it says optional, the question is how optional is optional, because it comes back later on and says mandatory, then you got to find financing. So I think that discussion have to be held in depth with the ministry. Yeah. And that's why we're asking not that we're not only be observers, but we actually get a seat at the table. I don't think it's only stations, the 3 islands is asking for that right, because of they're making a lot of these agreements. We have to take them along, and we don't get to find the buffer for that. So when we get a little bit of increase in the free allowance, it have to go in payments and payments and payments. So that is the issues that we're also facing. So of course, the Island Council can take that up too when they speak with the CFT, if they can, you know, champion for us to get a seat at the table. Maybe they may listen to the CFT, and hopefully then we can get a more input when they have these discussions.
All right, thank you, Commissioners Leerdam and Merkman. All right, so I think that concludes our deliberation on this agenda point, right? No other questions from the committee. So we thank the commissioners and also the staff persons, their staff, for the presentations. For the committee members, so we can forward this report with budget amendment to the Island Council for further deliberation. Without objection, we will so decide. All right, then we go to agenda point number 7. All right, so agenda point number 7 is announcements from the Executive Council. Members, any announcements? Commissioners?
There's a unveiling of and celebration of the 4th of July Independence in America that will be taking place on the 2nd of July. Commissioner Merkman, along with a team, will be traveling for that and will deliver a speech on my behalf as Commissioner of Culture. And also the acting governor will be taking part along with somebody from GIS to cover the moment. There will also be speeches from the Prime Minister, I understood. He'll also give an address by video about the commemoration of the 250th salute birthday of America. And also, again, I want to thank everyone who prayed, and also the Island Council, that the motion was adopted in the Parliament, which means that they're asking now to inquire where they can find this monies for station needs. So we're hoping that that extra steps now really result in fruits. You may think that that's not an accomplishment, but to reach to the Parliament and have this discussion on the Parliament table about station is a big, big, big accomplishment. And this is for the harbour. So it wasn't an easy feat to get it there. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of lobbying. And with the support of the Island Council, we were able to make the agenda as a topic for station. So I'm very happy. And we now just have to hope that we can find the financing to see this through. So I just want to mention that to the community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I understand the travel is to Washington. Okay. All right. Then agenda point number 8, closing. Commissioner Leardam.
Thank you. My brain is a bit fogged. Thank you very much. Emancipation Day this year, I would like to invite the community to come out to celebrate Emancipation Day. This year is a year that we're doing a collaboration with the African Burial Alliance, along with the Baragon Alliance, along with the Department of the Culture. This was in connection with the Ministry of the Slavery Memorial Committee. There's a section that talking about Emancipation Day for all 6 islands. One, they want to try to make it an official holiday. So Stacia already has that. So we're looking to see if they do make it an official holiday on the other islands, if we can get back the day. That's a discussion. And also they're giving financing towards this celebration, and they're asking the OLA to also contribute. So that's why we found a foundation that can work along with us to celebrate. Is the start. This is the start, and hopefully it will be something that's going to be structural every year, whereby we have a combined agenda event when it comes to Emancipation Day. So it may look a little different this year. Very interesting. The posters out so you can see what will be happening. I do hope the community can come out and be part, especially as we discuss the reburial of our ancestors. We need your input and your feedback, so please come out and enjoy the Emancipation Day.
All right, thank you. So this meeting of the Central Committee for today, June 29th, has now come to an end. I would like to thank all participants, teams for presentations and active engagements during the meeting, and gratitude also to committee members for their presence, to our technical team for their support, and to everyone following by radio, online streaming platforms. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, have a pleasant evening.